To Michael's big break. My father's voice boomed across our family's dining room, crystal glass raised high. Cypress Hills will be your legacy, son. I sat there, fork suspended midair, my grilled salmon suddenly tasting like sawdust. Cypress Hills Golf Resort, the property I had secretly purchased just yesterday after 12 years of meticulous saving and planning. I'm Victoria Chen, 34, former corporate lawyer turned entrepreneur, and apparently I had just crashed my family's celebration of giving my younger brother my property. My brother Michael, sprawled in his usual seat, grinned with that familiar entitled smirk that had been his trademark since childhood. Finally getting a real job, sis. Want to be my legal counsel? Our mother beamed at him, adjusting her Hermes scarf. Michael has such wonderful plans for the resort, a complete modernization, and that lovely apartment above the clubhouse will be perfect for when the baby comes. I looked at Michael's wife Sophie, who was absently rubbing her pregnant belly. She'd married him 6 months ago, despite my warnings about his tendency to live off our parents' generosity. The baby? I kept my voice steady, years of courtroom practice coming in handy. You're planning to live at the resort, of course. Sophie chirped. Michael's been talking about nothing else since your parents promised to help him buy it. We've already picked out colors for the nursery. I set down my fork with deliberate care. That's interesting. When exactly did you make this promise, Dad? My father puffed up with pride. We've been in talks with old Jim Harrison for months. Planning to make the offer next week. Your brother needs a proper start in life, and what better way than with a prestigious business like Cypress Hills? Jim Harrison, I repeated slowly. The previous owner. Yes, yes. My father waved his hand dismissively. He's been wanting to retire. We've got a handshake agreement. I reached for my briefcase, which I'd brought to dinner planning to share my own news. A handshake agreement. I see. Michael leaned forward, his confidence wavering slightly at my tone. What's with the third degree, Vicky? This is supposed to be a celebration. Oh, we'll celebrate all right. I pulled out a thick manila envelope. But not for the reasons you think. My mother's perfectly penciled eyebrows drew together. Victoria, what are you doing? I slid the property deed across the table. Congratulations on your handshake agreement. Unfortunately, Cypress Hills Golf Resort already has a new owner. Me. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the classical music playing softly in the background seemed to hold its breath. My father snatched up the papers, his face reddening as he read. This is impossible. We had an agreement. No, Dad, you had a conversation. I had a contract. Signed, sealed, and delivered yesterday morning. Michael stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. You can't do this. Mom and Dad promised me the resort. They can't promise what they don't own, I replied calmly. I bought it fair and square. With my own money. But where did you get that kind of money? My mother stammered. I laughed, though there was no humor in it. You mean the money I saved while living in a tiny apartment instead of the luxury condo you thought I should have? The money I earned working 80-hour weeks while Michael was finding himself on your dime. That money. Sophie burst into tears. But the nursery, we had it all planned. Plans change, I said, standing up. Just like my plans changed when I was 18 and had to give up my dream school because all the college fund went to Michael's third attempt at freshman year. My father slammed his hand on the table, making the crystal water glasses jump. This is outrageous. You've ruined everything. We raised you better than this. Did you? I met his gaze steadily. You raised me to work hard, to be responsible, to earn my own way. The fact that those lessons didn't apply to Michael doesn't change their value. You selfish bitch, Michael spat. Always jealous because Mom and Dad loved me more. Our mother gasped, Michael. But I just smiled. No, Michael, they didn't love you more. They failed you more, and now you're 32 years old with no job, no skills, and a baby on the way. Tell me again who's been selfish. We can work this out, my father said, switching to his business negotiation voice. Name your price, we'll buy you out. With what money? I asked quietly. The money you spent on Michael's failed startup, or the money that went into his consulting business that never consulted anyone, or maybe the money you lost backing his cryptocurrency scheme. Sophie looked at Michael sharply. Cryptocurrency scheme. Not now, honey, he muttered. I gathered my things, suddenly tired of the familiar drama. The resort is mine. I take possession next week. You're all welcome to book tea times like any other guests, assuming you can afford the membership fees. This isn't over, my father warned. I have connections. I can make things very difficult for you. Really? I raised an eyebrow. You want to go up against a former corporate lawyer who specialized in contract law? Be my guest. My mother tried one last guilt trip. Think of your brother's baby. Your own niece or nephew. Don't you want them to have every advantage? Like Michael had every advantage. How did that work out? I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Michael, the apartment above the clubhouse is being converted into a premium members lounge. You might want to rethink those nursery colors. The drive home was punctuated by increasingly hysterical calls and texts. My mother vacillated between threats and pleading. Michael left voicemails full of creative profanity. Sophie posted tearful Instagram stories about toxic family members destroying dreams. I ignored them all. Back in my modest apartment, the one my mother called, beneath your station, I poured myself a glass of wine and pulled up the renovation plans for Cypress Hills on my laptop. The resort had good bones, but it needed updating to compete with newer clubs in the area. My phone buzzed with a text from Jim Harrison. The previous owner, your father just called, raging about verbal agreements. Told him straight. Never promised anything to anyone. Sale to you is final. Good luck with the place. I forwarded the text to my lawyer with a note. Documentation for the inevitable legal challenge. Her response was quick. Already preparing for it. Your family's going to try something stupid, aren't they? Count on it, I replied. The next morning, I drove to Cypress Hills for my first official meeting with the staff. The sight of the sprawling clubhouse still made my heart skip. 12 years of dreams finally realized. Bernard, the club manager who'd worked there for 20 years, met me at the entrance. Miss Chen, he said, shaking my hand. The staff is assembled in the main dining room. But there's something you should know. Let me guess. My brother's been here. Bernard nodded. Came by last night, quite intoxicated. Told everyone he was the real owner, and we should only take orders from him. Security escorted him out. Any damage? Just his dignity. We got it all on camera. I smiled. Bernard was going to work out just fine. The staff meeting went well. Despite the undercurrent of tension, I outlined my plans for modernization, while emphasizing that good employees had nothing to fear. By the end, most seemed cautiously optimistic about the changes. As I was reviewing membership records in my new office, Bernard knocked again. Your parents are here. With their lawyer. I checked the security feed. Sure enough, there they were. My father in his power suit. My mother coordinating as always in designer wear. And Franklin Woods, their family attorney who'd handled all of Michael's legal troubles over the years. Send them up, I said. This should be entertaining. They filed in, my parents taking the visitor chairs, while Franklin remained standing, trying to loom impressively. Victoria, he began. This situation has become untenable. Your parents had a prior agreement. No, they didn't. I cut in. They had a conversation. I have a contract. But please, continue explaining contract law to me. I'd love to hear your interpretation. He flushed. There are other considerations. Like what? Michael's feelings, his complete lack of business experience, his history of failed ventures with other people's money. Now see here, my father started, but I held up a hand. No, you see here, I bought this property legally, with my own money, after proper due diligence. Jim Harrison has already confirmed there were no prior agreements. So unless you're here to book a tea time, we're done. Your brother has rights. Franklin tried again. To what? I asked pleasantly. Please enlighten me about what legal rights my brother has to a property he didn't buy, doesn't own, and has no connection to beyond wishful thinking. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. How can you be so cruel? After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me. I couldn't help laughing. You mean like spending my college fund on Michael's multiple attempts at higher education, Or maybe you mean all the times you've belittled my career choices while praising his unemployment as finding his path. That's different. My father exploded. He needed the support. And I didn't, or did you just assume I'd keep succeeding no matter what? Because that was more convenient for you. Franklin cleared his throat. We could pursue legal action. Please do, I said cheerfully. I'd love to depose Michael about his business qualifications. And Dad, we could discuss all those investments you've written off. Mom, how about we talk about the trust fund you secretly drained from Michael's crypto scheme? My mother's face went pale. How did you? I'm a lawyer, Mom. Did you really think I wouldn't do my homework? Now, unless you want the IRS taking a very close look at some creative accounting, I suggest you leave. They stood, my father's face purple with rage. This isn't over. Actually, it is. And Dad, your membership has been revoked. Feel free to golf elsewhere. After they left, Bernard appeared with coffee and a slight smile. Impressive, but they'll be back. Of course they will. I agreed. That's why we're changing all the security codes tonight. The next few days were a blur of meetings with contractors, membership reviews, and endless calls from flying monkeys, family friends and distant relatives, suddenly deeply concerned about poor Michael's future. I blocked numbers. I documented harassment. I focused on work. Then Sophie showed up, 7 months pregnant, and weaponizing her condition for all it was worth. Your own niece or nephew will grow up knowing you destroyed their father's dreams, she declared dramatically to her Instagram Live audience while standing in the club parking lot. I watched on the security feed, sipping my coffee. Bernard, please have security remind Mrs. Chen that she's trespassing on private property. With pleasure, he replied. Should I mention that her entire performance is being recorded? Absolutely. By the end of the week, Michael had started a GoFundMe to reclaim our family's legacy. The fact that it had never been our family's legacy didn't seem to bother his supporters. My lawyer called with updates. They're trying to claim you used insider information to steal the deal. Want to know the funny part? Your brother's GoFundMe might constitute fraud since he's collecting money for a property he has no legal claim to. I forwarded her the latest batch of threatening texts from Michael. Add it to the file. How's that restraining order coming along? Should have it by Monday. Oh, and your father's been calling his country club friends, trying to blackball you from other golf clubs in the area. I laughed. Good thing I own my own club then. That evening, as I walked the grounds of Cypress Hills, I spotted a groundskeeper wrestling with an old irrigation system. Everything okay, Tom? He straightened up, wiping his brow. Yes, ma'am. Just this old system acting up again. Your brother used to promise he'd modernize everything once he took over. Interesting. Did he promise that before or after he learned how irrigation systems work? Tom grinned. Point taken. You know, some of us were worried when we heard about the sale. But after seeing you handle things this week, I think the place is in good hands. I looked out over the immaculate greens, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It is, Tom. It definitely is. My phone buzzed, another text from Michael. You won't get away with this. Dad's talking to his lawyer friends about options. I blocked his number and turned back to Tom. Tell me more about what needs updating. Unlike some people, I actually plan to run this place properly. A week after taking possession of Cypress Hills, I was reviewing membership applications when Bernard rushed into my office. We have a situation, he said, his usual composure ruffled. Your brother's hosting a members' meeting in the parking lot. I checked the security feed. Michael had set up an impromptu podium using a golf cart, surrounded by about 30 of our older members, all friends of my father from his country club days. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael was saying, his voice carrying through our exterior cameras, this club has been hijacked by someone who doesn't understand its traditions, its values, its legacy. I pressed the intercom. Security Implement Protocol M. We'd prepared for this. While Michael continued his theatrical performance, our staff quietly began placing trespassing notice signs around the gathering. Your brother's really milking it, Bernard observed as we watched Michael gesture dramatically. Though his audience seems a bit thin. Most of our actual members are too busy golfing to attend parking lot protests, I replied. How are the new membership numbers looking? Up 30% since last week. Turns out your brother's social media campaign backfired. Young professionals are interested in a club that's breaking from stuffy traditions. I smiled. Michael had always been his own worst enemy. The security feed showed local police arriving right on schedule. Officer Sarah Martinez, who'd become familiar with our situation, approached the gathering. Mr. Chen, she called out, interrupting Michael's speech about family betrayal. This is private property. You've been served with a trespassing notice. This is my club. Michael shouted, his face reddening. These are my members. Actually, one of the older gentlemen in the crowd spoke up. I just canceled my membership this morning. Can't support a club that's abandoned its values. Thank you, Mr. Peterson, I said into the microphone that would carry to the parking lot speakers. Your $50,000 membership termination fee has been processed. As per the contract you signed in 1987, no refunds are available. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Apparently many hadn't read the fine print of their membership agreements. You can't do this. Michael was growing increasingly desperate. Dad, tell them. Our father pushed through the crowd, looking oddly diminished without his usual country club blazer. This is harassment, Victoria. These are paying members. Correction, I replied through the speakers. These are former members trespassing on private property. Officer Martinez, please proceed. The crowd dispersed quickly after that, leaving Michael standing alone by his makeshift podium. Sophie, who'd been filming the whole thing for social media, rushed to his side. This is going viral, she exclaimed. Everyone will see how we're being persecuted. I turned off the exterior cameras and faced Bernard. How many membership cancellations so far? 12. All over age 65. All friends of your father. But we've gained 47 new applications this week, mostly young professionals and families. Perfect, time to implement Phase 2. Phase 2 had been my secret weapon. A complete modernization plan that would transform Cypress Hills from an old boys club into a modern golf and lifestyle destination. That afternoon, I met with the architectural team to finalize the plans for our new family center and tech-enabled driving range. As we reviewed the blueprints, my lawyer called. Your brother's GoFundMe has been shut down, she reported. Apparently soliciting money for property you don't own violates their terms of service. Also, several of his donors are threatening fraud charges. How much did he collect? About $75,000. Which he's already spent on, wait for it, a down payment for a new Mercedes. I sighed. Some things never change. How's the restraining order? Signed this morning. He can't come within 500 feet of the property. Your parents are trying to fight it, but given the documented harassment. After hanging up, I found several missed calls from my mother. Her voicemail was predictably dramatic. Victoria, your father is in the hospital. His blood pressure. All this stress, how could you do this to your own family? I forwarded the message to my lawyer for documentation and texted Bernard. If my mother shows up claiming medical emergencies, verify with the hospital first. He replied immediately. Already checked. Your father's not admitted anywhere. He's currently at the country club bar. Around sunset, I was walking the course with our head groundskeeper when Sophie's latest Instagram live caught my attention. She was touring luxury nursery stores, tearfully explaining how her baby would now grow up in a modest house instead of the family estate that had been stolen from them. Miss Chen, Tom the groundskeeper interrupted my thoughts. About the irrigation system upgrade. Right, I refocused on what mattered. Show me the plans. The next morning, I arrived early to find an unexpected visitor in the parking lot. My Aunt Helen, my father's sister who'd been ostracized years ago for refusing to invest in one of Michael's schemes. Nice place, she said, looking around appreciatively. No wonder they're losing their minds. Aunt Helen, what brings you here? She grinned. Thought you might like to know what they're planning next. Your mother called me yesterday, trying to recruit me for their latest scheme. We moved to my office where Aunt Helen revealed the family's new plan. They were trying to convince some of Dad's old business associates to withdraw their investments in my other ventures, hoping to force me to sell Cypress Hills. They seem to have forgotten that you made your money independently, she mused. Your mother kept talking about family money as if it was all one pot. That's because for them it always was, I replied, as long as it was flowing to Michael. Speaking of Michael, she pulled out her phone. You might want to see this. He's been approaching potential investors, claiming he's still involved in the club's management. She showed me screenshots of Michael meeting with various business people, presenting himself as the true owner of Cypress Hills. I forwarded the evidence to my lawyer with a brief note. Fraud? Her response was quick. Definitely. Want me to send cease and desist letters? Yes, and copy their lawyers. Time to play hardball. That afternoon, during a meeting with our new marketing team, Bernard interrupted with urgent news. Your brother's wife is in labor, he said. They're doing an Instagram live from the hospital. I checked the feed. Sure enough, there was Sophie, between contractions, wailing about how her baby would never know their rightful inheritance. Should we respond? The marketing director asked. No need, I replied. Let's focus on our actual business. Hours later, my mother called. You have a nephew, Michael Jr. Don't you want to meet him? We could all reconcile. Mom, I cut her off. I'm happy the baby is healthy. But if you're trying to use him as emotional leverage, stop now. How can you be so cold? This is your flesh and blood. Yes, and I've already set up a college fund for him. One that neither Michael nor you can access. That's all he's getting from me. The next day, the local business journal ran a feature on Cypress Hill's modernization plan. The response was immediate. Our membership waitlist doubled, and several major tournaments expressed interest in our venue. Michael's response was equally swift. He showed up at the club entrance, baby in arms, staging another social media moment. Look, son, he announced to his phone camera. This should have been your legacy. But your cruel aunt. Security approached before he could finish his speech. Sir, you're in violation of the restraining order. You can't keep me from my son's birthright, he shouted as they escorted him out. Actually, I said through the security speaker. I can, and Michael, using your newborn as a prop, that's a new low even for you. Later that evening, as I reviewed the day's incidents with my lawyer, she raised an interesting point. You know what's fascinating, she said. In all their protests and social media campaigns, neither your brother nor your parents have ever mentioned actually running the club. It's all about ownership, legacy, birthright, but nothing about business plans or management experience, because they've never had to think about those things. I replied. In their world, owning something is enough. Actually running it successfully, that's someone else's job. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Helen. Your mother's selling her jewelry collection to help Michael fight the restraining order. Thought you should know they're getting desperate. I forwarded it to my lawyer with a question. Time to end this. Her response. Yes, I'll file the harassment suits tomorrow. That night, as I walked the quiet, empty course, I thought about legacy. Not the kind my parents talked about, but the real kind. The kind built on hard work, vision and actual results. My phone buzzed with another dramatic text from Sophie. Your nephew will grow up, knowing what you stole from him. I blocked her number and turned back to the clubhouse, where the lights of the renovation crews worked late into the night, building something new, something better. This was my legacy, earned through years of hard work and sacrifice, and no amount of family drama could take that away. 3 months after taking ownership of Cypress Hills, our modernization project was in full swing. The new tech-enabled driving range was nearly complete, membership applications were flooding in, and our social media presence had exploded, though not in the way my family had intended. Then Bernard rushed into my office during a contractor meeting. Your parents are here, he said, with Michael, Sophie, the baby, and a television crew. I checked the security feed. A local news van was parked outside, and a reporter was setting up while my family posed dramatically in front of the club entrance. They're calling it Country Club Crisis. A family divided, Bernard added, showing me the news station's social media announcement. I smiled. Perfect timing. Tell PR to implement Protocol T. We'd prepared for this too. While the reporter began her dramatic introduction about family betrayal and stolen legacies, our own camera crew emerged from the clubhouse. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke through the exterior speakers. Welcome to Cypress Hill's official media day. We're delighted to showcase our $50 million modernization project, including our new youth golf academy and community outreach programs. The news reporter turned, clearly thrown off script. Miss Chen, would you care to comment on your family's claims? Of course, I said, walking out to meet them. But first, would you like to see how we're making golf accessible to underprivileged youth? Or perhaps our new environmental sustainability initiatives? My father's face reddened. This isn't about your PR stunts. This is about family. No, Dad, I replied calmly, aware of both camera crews recording. This is about business. Something you taught me, remember? Before Michael became your only priority. The reporter's interest visibly shifted. Mr. Chen, is it true that you've invested in several failed businesses for your son? That's not relevant, my mother interjected quickly. Actually, I added, it's very relevant, especially the part where they promised him my property before I bought it. Would you like to see the documentation? Michael stepped forward, bouncing his crying infant. My son was supposed to grow up here. This was his birthright. Birthright? I raised an eyebrow. Interesting choice of words for a property you never owned, paid for, or worked at. Speaking of work, how's that GoFundMe fraud investigation going? The reporter's eyes widened. Fraud investigation. Sophie quickly covered the camera with her hand. Stop filming. This isn't what we agreed to. But the damage was done. Within hours, the story had shifted from family drama at elite club to failed businessman claims. Rights to sister's success. Later that afternoon, my lawyer called with updates. The harassment suit is proceeding nicely, she said. The television stunt actually helps our case. Also, remember those investors your brother was approaching. 2 of them have filed complaints about misrepresentation. I was reviewing the reports when Aunt Helen stopped by. Quite a show this morning, she said, settling into a visitor's chair. Your mother's apparently bedridden with grief now. Let me guess, she's still managing to post about it on social media. Hourly updates, complete with artistic photos of her tissue boxes. I pulled up the club's latest financial reports. Well, while they're busy with their drama, we've increased revenue by 40% this quarter.
Yeah.
They never understood that, did they? Aunt Helen mused. The actual work part of success. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. The baby has colic. This is your fault. All the stress you've caused. I added it to the harassment documentation and turned back to the reports. Around sunset, Bernard knocked again. Your brother's trying to organize a member boycott. He's outside the country club, where your father still golfs, handing out flyers. I checked the security footage he'd obtained. Michael, looking increasingly disheveled, was accosting golfers with papers titled, "The Truth About Cypress Hills." Forward it to legal, I said, and send a copy to those investors who filed complaints. The next morning, during a meeting with our youth program coordinators, my lawyer called with unexpected news. Your parents are trying to claim part ownership of the purchase funds, she said. They're arguing that some of your savings came from family money. I laughed. They do realize I have documentation of every penny I've earned since I was 16. Yes, but they're desperate. Your father's country club friends are starting to distance themselves. Apparently Michael's public meltdowns are becoming embarrassing. After the call, I walked the grounds with Tom, discussing the new irrigation system. The contrast between actual work and my family's drama had never been clearer. You know, Tom said as we inspected the sprinklers. Your brother used to come here sometimes, before you bought the place, would talk big about his plans. Never understood a word we said about maintenance or operations. Sounds like Michael, I replied. All dreams, no substance. Back in my office, I found several missed calls from my mother. Her voicemail was predictably theatrical. Victoria, how could you humiliate us on television like that? We only wanted what was best for Michael. For the baby. Is your heart completely frozen? I forwarded it to my lawyer and checked the day's bookings. Our new corporate event packages were selling out months in advance. Then Bernard appeared with more news. Your sister-in-law's started a podcast, Trophy Wife to Trophy Life. My journey through family betrayal. I couldn't help but laugh. How many listeners? 12, including your mother and her bridge club. That evening, as I reviewed applications for our youth golf program, my father made one last attempt at manipulation. He showed up alone, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Vicky, he said, using my childhood nickname. We can fix this. Make it right. Your brother, he needs this chance. Like he needed the chances with the restaurant, the tech startup, the cryptocurrency scheme. He flinched. Those were learning experiences. No, Dad. Those were expensive lessons you refused to learn from. The resort is mine. I earned it. I'm running it. End of discussion. You'll regret this, he warned. But his voice lacked conviction. Family is everything. No. I replied softly. Self-respect is everything. Something you taught me before Michael became your only focus. After he left, I received a text from Aunt Helen. Your mother's organizing a prayer circles for your soul. Apparently, you're now possessed by the demon of success. I smiled and turned back to my work. The resort's new tennis complex plans needed review, and unlike my family's drama, that actually mattered. My phone buzzed with Sophie's latest Instagram story. Day 90 of our fight for justice. Baby Michael will never know his true heritage. I blocked her account and opened the youth program applications. 20 underprivileged kids would learn golf here next summer. Their lives potentially changed forever. That, I thought, was a legacy worth building. 6 months after purchasing Cypress Hills, I sat in my office reviewing the quarter's results. Membership had doubled. Our youth program was gaining national attention, and the modernization project was ahead of schedule. Then my lawyer called with unexpected news. Your brother filed for bankruptcy, she said. And there's something you need to see. She forwarded documents revealing that Michael had taken out loans using fake documentation about his ownership of Cypress Hills. How bad? I asked. He's facing potential fraud charges. Your parents are trying to liquidate assets to cover it. Also, Sophie's left him. Apparently she's writing a tell-all book about marriage into a toxic dynasty. I was digesting this information when Bernard knocked. Your mother's here, alone, and she's crying. On the security feed, I saw her designer clothes replaced by off-the-rack wear. Luxury car traded for a modest sedan. Send her up, I said. She entered my office looking deflated, her usual perfect appearance showing cracks. We've lost everything, she said without preamble. The house, the cars, our reputation, all because you couldn't share. No, Mom, all because you couldn't let Michael face consequences. She sank into a chair. He's your brother, yes, and you ruined him by never letting him grow up. Help him, she pleaded. Just this once. A job, maybe? I pulled out a file I'd prepared months ago. Here's what I'm offering. A junior position in grounds maintenance. Minimum wage. No special treatment. He works his way up like everyone else. Manual labor, my son? My offer. Take it or leave it. She left without the file. An hour later Michael called, raging about insults and birthright. I blocked his number and turned to the window, watching members enjoy the new pudding green we'd installed. Then Aunt Helen arrived with news. Your father's golf club friends are jumping ship. Apparently fraud allegations don't mix well with country club politics. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophie's publisher, interested in commenting on trust fund to train wreck. My life with the Chen dynasty. I forwarded to PR, with a brief no comment instruction. That evening, as I walked the course, Bernard joined me with the day's reports. The youth program's waiting list is 6 months long, he said. And that video about our first scholarship recipient went viral. The good kind of viral. I smiled watching the sunset paint the hills. Now that's a legacy worth having. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Michael. You won. Happy now? I deleted it without responding and turned to Bernard. Let's discuss the summer tournament schedule. This was my legacy, not the one my family imagined, but the one I'd built, one that actually made a difference. And that was worth everything. The end.